The dog came out of the rain with an old train ticket in his mouth, and Captain Nathan Walker knew, before he saw the name, that some memories do not stay buried just because a man learns how to salute over them. The morning is gray over Ashford, Pennsylvania, the kind of gray that makes every sidewalk look tired and every window look like it is holding back a confession. Rain taps softly against the bronze plaques at the Veterans Memorial, running in thin silver lines over names carved deep into stone. Names Nathan has spent the past hour cleaning with a cloth, a bucket of warm water, and the quiet patience of a man who knows how much a name can weigh. He is 36 now, broad-shouldered, pale-skinned, his Marine Corps jacket pulled tight against the damp spring cold, the sleeves faded at the elbows, the collar darkened by rain. His hair is cut short out of habit. His face carries the stillness of someone who has seen too much noise and learned to survive by becoming quiet. Around him, the town is waking slowly. A delivery truck growls past Main Street. A flag snaps once in the wind, then hangs heavy. Somewhere, church bells ring 8 times, each note drifting over wet pavement and red brick storefronts like a prayer that forgot where it was going. Nathan kneels beside the last plaque, wiping mud from the engraved name of a corporal he never met, when he hears claws on concrete. Not hurried, not lost, steady, measured, like footsteps that have traveled a long way for one reason. He looks up and sees the German shepherd standing at the edge of the memorial lawn. The dog is old, but not broken. His coat is dark sable, soaked from the storm, water beading along his back and dripping from the thick fur beneath his jaw. One ear stands sharp, the other bends slightly at the tip, marked by age and old service. His ribs do not show, but he is lean in the way working dogs become lean, all discipline and memory beneath the fur. Around his neck hangs a weathered leather collar, cracked with time, the metal ring dulled almost black. And held gently between his teeth is a train ticket, yellowed, bent, and protected by nothing but the careful pressure of his mouth. Nathan freezes. He has seen dogs carry toys, sticks, leashes, shoes, even medals during ceremonies. He has never seen one carry paper that looks older than the storm itself. "Hey, boy," Nathan says softly, because Marines learn early that the wounded and the loyal both deserve a calm voice. "Where did you come from?" The dog does not wag his tail. He does not lower his head. He only steps forward, one paw at a time, crossing the grass toward Nathan as if crossing years. Rainwater darkens the ticket, but the dog keeps it high, careful not to crush it. Nathan rises slowly. His knees complain from old miles. He sets the cloth on the bucket rim and wipes his hands against his jeans. There is no one nearby. No handler calling out. No patrol vehicle. No owner running through the rain with panic in their voice. Just the dog, the memorial, and the strange feeling that the morning has narrowed to a single breath. When the German shepherd reaches him, he stops close enough for Nathan to smell wet fur, cold air, and the faint metallic scent of an old collar. The dog lifts his muzzle. Nathan hesitates before taking the ticket, because something in the animal's eyes asks for reverence, not curiosity. They are amber eyes, clouded a little with age, but focused with a depth that makes Nathan's throat tighten for reasons he cannot name. "All right," he whispers. "Let's see what you've got." He slides the ticket free. The paper is soft, fragile, the edges feathered from time. Across the front, faded black ink reads Ashford Line, one way, platform 2. Nathan's pulse changes. Not stops. Changes. Like a drumbeat hearing a second rhythm under it. Ashford Line has not run in 12 years. Platform 2 has been sealed since the station closed after the accident, after the investigations, after the town decided silence was easier than answers. Nathan turns the ticket over, and the world reduces itself to one handwritten word in pencil, pale but unmistakable. Nate. Not Nathan. Not Captain Walker. Nate. The name only his mother used when she was tired. The name his father used when he was proud but did not want to show it. The name his little sister Emily used when she wanted him to. Look at her instead of the rest of the world. For a moment, Nathan cannot hear the ring. He cannot hear the traffic. He cannot hear the bell fading over town. All he hears is a memory from 12 years ago, a girl's voice calling from a station platform, bright as a ribbon in the dark. "Nate, don't be late." His hand tightens around the ticket, careful not to tear it, but unable to let go. He looks at the dog. "Who gave you this?" The German Shepherd turns away. Just like that. No bark. No command. No explanation. He walks toward the sidewalk, stops beneath the dripping branches of a maple tree, and looks back once. Nathan remains by the memorial, rain running down the back of his neck, the old ticket trembling between his fingers. Every reasonable part of him says not to follow. It says call animal control. Call the sheriff. Take the dog somewhere warm. Ask questions in daylight, with witnesses, with clean hands and a locked door between him and the past. But the unreasonable part of him, the part that still wakes at 2:17 in the morning hearing a phone ring that never rang in time, already knows where this road leads. The dog takes 3 more steps, then waits again. Not impatient. Certain. As if Nathan has been late once before, and the dog has no intention of letting him be late again. Nathan grabs his cap from the bench and slips the ticket into the inner pocket of his jacket, close to his chest. Okay, he says, though his voice barely makes it through the rain. Okay, boy, I'm coming. The German Shepherd starts down Main Street, moving with surprising purpose for his age. Nathan follows, his boots splashing through shallow puddles, his reflection breaking apart under him with every step. They pass Miller's Pharmacy, still closed behind fog glass. They pass the diner where retired cops drink coffee and pretend not to watch the world fall apart in small pieces. They pass a school bus hissing at the curb, children laughing inside, bright backpacks pressed to windows. No one seems to notice the Marine following an old K9 through the rain with the face of a man being led toward a sentence he has spent half his life avoiding. The farther they go, the quieter Ashford becomes. Storefronts give way to empty lots. Empty lots give way to chain-link fences and weeds grown waist-high along the abandoned rail spur. Nathan knows this route. His body knows it before his mind admits it. The old pedestrian bridge rises ahead, rust-red and slick, spanning the freight tracks like a scar stitched across the town. Beyond it, hidden behind sycamores and sagging power lines, stands Ashford Station. He has not seen it in 12 years, not up close. He has driven around it, looked away from it, refused invitations to town meetings about what should be done with it. Tear it down, some said. Preserve it, others argued. Nathan had said nothing. How does a man vote on the place where his childhood ended? The dog reaches the bridge and pauses at the first step. His shoulders rise and fall with slow breaths. Nathan stops behind him. Rain drips from the brim of his cap. No, Nathan says quietly, and the word comes out before he can stop it. The German Shepherd looks back. There is no demand in his eyes, only waiting. Nathan sees, for the first time, how old the dog really is. The gray around his muzzle, the stiffness in his hips, the way one front paw lifts briefly, as if the wet concrete aches beneath it. This dog should be sleeping beside a fireplace somewhere. He should be chasing dreams in a warm room, not dragging the dead out of the rain. Nathan swallows hard. You know this place, he says. The dog turns and climbs. Nathan follows because some doors only open when mercy puts its teeth around an old ticket and brings it to your hands. At the top of the bridge, Ashford Station comes into view. The roof is collapsed at one end. The clock tower still stands, though the clock face is cracked and stopped at 9:42. Windows stare empty and black. Vines crawl over the brick like nature trying to cover shame. A torn sign hangs above the main entrance, swinging softly in the wind. Ashford Station. Nathan's chest tightens until breathing feels like lifting weight. 12 years ago, Emily Grace Walker sat on a bench inside that station after piano practice, waiting for her big brother to pick her up. She was 16, white-skinned, small, stubborn, always wearing a blue ribbon around her wrist because she said it made ordinary days feel chosen. Nathan was 24 then, home on leave, careless in the way young men can be when they believe tomorrow will always forgive them. He was late. Not by a minute, not by 5, by enough. When he arrived, the platform was empty. Her phone lay under the bench, its screen cracked, rain gathering on it like tears. After that came search parties, interviews, flyers, helicopters, candlelight vigils, arguments whispered behind kitchen doors, his mother's silence, his father's eyes turning from steel to ash. After that came the Marine Corps again, because war made more sense than waiting. Nathan grips the rail of the bridge until his knuckles pale. The German Shepherd descends the other side and trots toward the station entrance. At the doors, he stops, lowers his head, and presses his nose to the gap between two warped boards. Then he lets out a sound, so low Nathan feels it more than hears it. Not a growl. Not a whine. A remembering. Nathan steps closer. What are you trying to show me? The dog paws gently at the wood. Once. Twice. Then he looks back at Nathan, rain shining in his fur, the whole abandoned station breathing behind him like it has been holding one secret too long. Nathan reaches into his jacket and touches the ticket again. Nate. The pencil has smeared slightly from the damp, but the word remains. Small. Human. Impossible. He looks at the boarded doors, at the stopped clock, at the dog who should not know his name. And for the first time in 12 years, he does not turn away from Ashford Station. He steps forward. Nathan steps into the shadow of the station, and the smell reaches him first. Wet wood. Rusted rails. Old paper. Rainwater trapped in places where sunlight has not touched for years. It is not the smell of danger. It is the smell of something left behind too long, something waiting with its hands folded in the dark. The German shepherd squeezes through the loose boards with the careful grace of an animal that knows every inch of the place. Nathan follows more slowly, turning his shoulders to pass through the gap, feeling splinters brush his jacket and cold rain slide down the back of his neck. Inside, Ashford Station is larger than he remembers, or maybe grief has a way of stretching rooms after enough years. The ceiling rises above him in broken ribs of timber and steel. Water drips from holes in the roof, tapping into puddles on the tile floor with the steady rhythm of a clock that forgot how to move forward. Dust clings to the old ticket windows. The benches sit in crooked rows, their varnish peeled and silvered by damp air. Beyond the far wall, the platforms wait in a gray wash of mourning, empty except for weeds growing up through the cracks. Nathan stands just inside the entrance, unable to take another step. He has crossed deserts. He has slept under skies that sounded like thunder even when there were no storms. He has carried men through fear and returned home with medals he never knew where to put. But this room, this quiet room with broken glass and bird feathers in the corners, makes his chest feel too small for breath. The dog stops near the center aisle and looks back. Nathan knows that look. Not command. Not pity. Duty. The kind that does not need language. I am here, Nathan says, though he does not know whether he is speaking to the dog, to the building, or to a 16-year-old girl who once waited for headlights that came too late. The German shepherd turns and walks straight toward the row of benches facing platform 2. He does not sniff at random. He does not wander. His paws choose the same path as if he has walked it 100 times, maybe 1,000, through seasons, through snow, through long hot summers when the rails shimmered and nobody came. Nathan follows at a distance of 10 feet, each step waking something under the floor. A soft groan of wood, a faint scrape of grit, a memory. The bench is still there. Number 7. The brass number plate hangs at one corner, green with age but readable. Nathan stops when he sees it. For a moment the station is not abandoned. It is alive with old light. Emily is sitting there with her backpack in her lap, white hands wrapped around a paper cup of hot chocolate from the machine near the restrooms, blue ribbon around her wrist, piano. Books tucked beside her, one sneaker tapping because she hates waiting but refuses to admit it. She looks up every time headlights pass outside. She checks her phone. She tells herself Nate is coming. He always comes. Nathan closes his eyes, but the picture stays. He opens them, and the bench is only a bench again. Rainwater has darkened one end. A sparrow flutters near the rafters. The dog lowers his muzzle to the floor beneath the seat and breathes in slowly. Then he lifts his right paw and touches the tile once. Not scratching, not digging, just touching. A signal. Nathan crouches. His knees crack softly. Beneath the bench, near the iron leg, are faint marks in the dust and old varnish. Lines carved into the wood. Some are long and shallow. Some cross over each other. Nathan runs 2 fingers over them and feels his pulse climb. They are claw marks. Old ones. Too low for a person. Too deliberate for weather. The dog watches him. Nathan turns his head slightly. You did this. The German shepherd blinks once. The station gives no answer. Nathan leans closer and sees something wedged behind the back leg of the bench, half hidden by dust and a curl of dried leaves. At first he thinks it is trash. Then he sees leather. He reaches in slowly and pulls it free. It is a strip from an old collar, stiff with age, the buckle tarnished, The edge is cracked, but cared for once. A small metal tag hangs from it. Nathan rubs it with his thumb, clearing a film of dirt. The letters appear one by one, and the air seems to leave the room. Ranger. Property of T. Walker. Nathan does not move. His father's name is Thomas Walker. Everyone in Ashford knew him as Tom, the quiet former Marine who fixed engines, volunteered at church fish fries, and never let a flag touch the ground. At home, he was harder to understand. Not cruel, never cruel, just distant in the way some men become distant when they love deeply and have no safe place to put it. After Emily disappeared, Thomas stopped sleeping. He walked the town at night with a flashlight. He kept maps on the kitchen table. He circled places in red pen. He called sheriff offices in 3 counties every Monday morning until people stopped picking up. Then, 2 years later, his heart gave out in the garage beside an open toolbox and a mug of coffee gone cold. Nathan had buried him with a salute and a guilt he never named. But no one ever told him his father had a dog. Nathan looks at the German Shepherd. Ranger, he says. The dog's ears shift at the name. Not surprise. Recognition. The old K9 steps forward and rests his nose against Nathan's hand, right where the leather collar lies across his palm. The touch is brief, but it is enough to break something loose inside him. Nathan sees his father in the motion, not as he was at the end, worn thin by searching, but as he must have been when hope still had muscle, walking this same station with Ranger at his side, believing scent and faith could find what men in offices could not. Nathan whispers, "You were his." Ranger breathes against his fingers. Warm, steady, certain. Outside, thunder rolls far beyond the town, soft and low over the hills. Nathan slips the collar piece into his jacket pocket beside the ticket. 2 objects now. 2 impossible messengers. The old ticket with his name. The old collar with his father's. He stands and scans the station, seeing it differently. Not as the place where Emily vanished, but as the place where Thomas kept coming back. Here, beside the ticket windows, dust lies unevenly on the floor, as if someone once moved boards and put them back. Near the restroom hallway, an old cabinet door hangs open with fresh scratches near the bottom. On the wall beside the station map, barely visible beneath mildew and peeling paint, someone has drawn a small mark in black marker. A cross. Not religious exactly. More like a sign left by a man who needed to find the same spot again. Ranger walks to it. He sits beneath the mark and looks toward the ticket booth. Nathan's mouth goes dry. The ticket booth windows are clouded with grime, but behind them he can see a door. Small, wooden, half hidden by a fallen schedule board. He remembers that door. Employees only. Storage, maybe. Cleaning supplies. A place no one checked twice because everyone was searching platforms, parking lots, roads, and ditches. Ranger rises before Nathan moves, crosses to the booth, and presses his shoulder against the lower panel. It shifts with a tired creak. Not open, but not locked the way it should be. Nathan walks to him and places one hand on the wood. It is cold, damp, swollen by years of rain. What did he find here? Nathan asks. Ranger steps back, then touches the base of the door with his paw. Once, twice. The same patient signal. Nathan looks down and sees a narrow gap beneath the panel, and inside that gap, caught on a nail, is a strip of blue fabric, faded almost white with age. His heartbeat becomes a hard, slow thing. He kneels. His fingers hover, afraid of what touching it might make real. Then he takes the fabric gently between thumb and forefinger and draws it into the light. It is not much. A ribbon, frayed at one end. Pale blue. The kind Emily used to tie around her wrist because she said ordinary days deserved a little color. Nathan's breath breaks in the quiet. Ranger does not bark. He does not move closer. He simply lowers himself beside Nathan, old bones settling on the tile, keeping watch while the Marine holds the ribbon as if it is the hand of someone he has been reaching for across 12 years. For a long moment, Nathan cannot speak. Then he looks at the swollen door behind the ticket booth, at the mark on the wall, at Ranger waiting with eyes that have carried too much truth alone. Somewhere beyond the broken roof, rain begins falling harder, washing the glass, the rails, the old bricks, the whole town that tried to forget. Nathan folds the ribbon carefully and places it with the ticket and the collar. 3 signs now. His name, his father's secret, Emily's blue ribbon. He stands slowly, his voice low and raw but steady enough to belong to the man he is trying to become. "Show me the rest, Ranger." The dog rises at once and faces the hidden door. Nathan places both hands against the swollen door and pushes. At first, nothing moves. The old wood only answers with a tired groan, as if the station itself is reluctant to give up what it has kept hidden. Ranger stands beside him, head low, ears forward, breathing slowly through his nose. Rain drums harder on the broken roof. Above them, falling through the gaps in silver lines that strike the floor and scatter into small, trembling circles. Nathan shifts his weight and pushes again. The door gives half an inch, then another. Dust spills down from the frame. Somewhere inside the ticket booth, something small clatters against the floor and rolls into silence. Nathan pauses, listening. There is no danger in the sound. Only age. Only the delicate collapse of a place that has outlived its purpose. He looks down at Ranger. The dog looks back with a patience that feels almost human, though Nathan knows better than to make it that simple. Dogs do not explain grief. They stand beside it until it can breathe. "All right," Nathan whispers. "Easy." He presses his shoulder to the panel and pushes one final time. The door opens with a long wooden sigh, scraping across the tile. A breath of cold air comes out from behind it, carrying the scent of damp cardboard, old ink, and something faintly sweet, like paper that once sat near flowers. Nathan lifts his phone and turns on the light. The beam cuts through dust, revealing a narrow storage room no larger than a walk-in closet. Shelves line the walls. Most are empty except for cracked cleaning bottles, a rusted cash drawer, stacks of outdated train schedules, and a row of cardboard boxes softened by years of moisture. A station employee calendar still hangs on a nail, frozen at October, the corners curled inward like tired hands. Ranger steps past Nathan without hesitation. He does not explore the shelves. He walks straight to the back wall, where a fallen schedule board leans crookedly against a filing cabinet. The dog presses his nose to the narrow space behind it and gives a low breath through his teeth. Nathan follows the light. Behind the board, barely visible, is another mark in black marker. The same small cross he saw outside, but beneath this one are three initials written in neat block letters. T.W.W. Thomas William Walker. Nathan has not seen his father's full initials in years. Not since the funeral home handed him a folded flag and a packet of papers he never fully read. His hand rises toward the mark, then stops. He suddenly remembers. His father at the kitchen table, late at night, white sleeves rolled to the elbows, coffee untouched, drawing lines across a county map, while Nathan stood in the doorway unable to ask for forgiveness. Thomas had not looked angry. That would have been easier. He had looked busy. Busy loving the missing child. Busy losing the living one. Nathan swallows the memory down, but it does not stay down. It moves through him like cold water. Ranger paws once at the fallen board. Nathan sets his phone on the shelf, grips the edge, and pulls. The board is heavier than it looks, damp and stuck in places, but it finally slides aside with a grinding sound. Behind it sits a metal filing cabinet, gray, dinted, and streaked with rust. One drawer is slightly open. Not enough for a person to notice from the doorway. Enough for a dog to remember. Nathan crouches, hooks 2 fingers around the drawer handle, and pulls. It resists, then opens in short, stubborn jerks. Inside are folders wrapped in plastic bags, each labeled in his father's handwriting. Nathan knows that handwriting immediately. Tight, square, controlled. The kind of handwriting a man uses when his heart is shaking and he refuses to let his hand show it. The first folder reads station interviews. The second reads weather reports. The third reads missing children, regional. Nathan's brow tightens. He looks at Ranger, then back at the folders. "What were you doing, Dad?" His voice is almost gone. He opens the third folder carefully. Inside are photocopied flyers, newspaper clippings, handwritten notes, and printed faces of children from towns along the Ashford line. Boys and girls. Different ages. Different counties. All gone in the same 3-year window before the station closed. Nathan does not read every detail. He cannot. The room is too small for that much sorrow. But he sees enough. Dates circled. Train stops marked. Witness notes underlined. Besides several names, Thomas has written the same phrase in red ink. Last seen near station. Nathan sits back on his heels. The rain outside seems farther away now, as if the world has stepped back to let the dead speak softly. Emily was not the only one. That thought settles in him with the weight of a stone placed gently on a grave. Not a violent thought, not a loud one. Worse, a quiet widening of the wound. Nathan had spent 12 years believing his family's pain was a single broken window in the house of the town. His father had believed it was part of a larger darkness, one moving along rail lines, hiding behind schedules and transfer times, and the polite failure of adults who wanted simple explanations. Ranger lowers himself beside the open drawer and rests his chin on his front paws. His eyes never leave Nathan. There is no accusation in them, only the steady presence of a witness. Nathan turns to another folder. This one is thinner, sealed in a freezer bag, the word Emily written across the front. He does not open it right away. His thumb rests on the name. Emily Grace Walker. His little sister had been small for her age, but loud in every room. Always singing half a song. Always leaving notes on the refrigerator. Always correcting Nathan when he called her kid. I am not a kid, Nate. I am practically grown. She had wanted to visit Nashville one day, not because she knew anything about the music business, but because she liked the idea of a city where people carried songs into grocery stores and gas stations. He remembers laughing at her. He remembers promising he would drive her there when he had time. Time. The cruelest word in any family. Ranger suddenly rises. His nails click once on the tile. Nathan looks up. The dog has turned toward the opposite shelf, where a row of old ticket envelopes sits tucked behind a cracked plastic bin. He stretches his neck, sniffs, and gives a single soft huff. Nathan sets the Emily folder on the floor with care and reaches for the envelopes. Most crumble at the edges when he touches them. Each one holds an old ticket, some blank, some stamped, some with names scribbled in pencil. His father collected them, maybe from trash cans, maybe from storage boxes, maybe from the floor beneath seats where people dropped evidence without knowing it had a name. Nathan sorts through them slowly, the phone light trembling as his hand begins to shake. A ticket to Lancaster. A ticket to Harrisburg. A ticket. With no destination, only a date. Then he finds one sealed inside a small clear sleeve, better protected than the rest. Across the front, in faded print, is the same date Emily disappeared. The ink is pale, but readable. One way. Platform 2. Departure, 9:42 in the evening. The exact time the clock outside stopped. Nathan's breath catches. He turns the ticket over, expecting another note for him, another impossible word from the past. But the back is blank except for a smudge of blue pencil near the corner. He brings it closer to the light and sees that it is not a smudge. It is part of a drawing. A tiny house. A triangle roof. A square window. Childlike, simple, almost smiling. Beneath it, in faint letters, one word. Home. Nathan feels his knees weaken, and he steadies himself against the cabinet. Home. Not a destination printed by the railroad. Not a town. Not a station. Emily wrote it. He knows the shape of her letters, the way the H leans forward as if it is already running. She must have held this ticket. She must have believed someone would find it. She must have thought of home while the whole world was losing her. Emily. Nathan says, and the name does not echo. It stays close, tucked in the damp air between him and Ranger. The dog steps forward and presses his shoulder lightly against Nathan's leg. Not enough to push him, enough to hold him upright. Nathan lowers himself to the floor because standing has become too much. He keeps the ticket in both hands, careful as a prayer. The storage room feels smaller now, but not empty. His father has been here. Emily has been here. Ranger has been here, again and again, guarding paper, scent, memory, and the thin golden thread between those who left and those who could not stop waiting. Nathan closes his eyes for one breath. When he opens them, the phone light catches something under the lowest shelf. A corner of metal, dark green, military issue. A small lockbox, pushed deep against the wall. Ranger sees it too. His ears lift. Nathan reaches under the shelf, fingertips scraping dust, and pulls the box into the light. On the lid, written in his father's square hand, are 4 words that make the room go still. For Nate, when ready. Nathan stares at the words on the lockbox until they begin to blur. For Nate, when ready. His father had written them in black marker, the letters firm and square, the same way he labeled tool drawers, Christmas storage bins, and the little paper bags of screws he never threw away. Ordinary handwriting. Impossible message. Nathan sits on the damp tile of the storage room with the old ticket on one side of him, Emily's faded blue ribbon in his pocket, and Ranger standing close enough that his wet fur brushes Nathan's sleeve. The rain keeps working on the roof above them, patient and soft, as if heaven has all the time in the world and men are the only ones who ever believe they have lost it. Nathan runs his thumb over the lid of the box. The green paint is scratched. One corner is dented. The small lock is rusted, but not sealed. It looks like something his father might have kept ammunition in long ago, then repurposed for fishing lures, then finally for secrets. Nathan does not open it right away. He tells himself it is because the lock might break, because the contents might be fragile, because a man should be careful with old evidence. But the truth is simpler and harder. He is afraid of hearing his father's voice after 12 years of trying not to need it. Ranger lowers his head and nudges the box once with his nose. Not hard, just enough. Nathan lets out a breath that almost becomes a laugh, but there is too much ache in it. You are not subtle, are you? Ranger blinks slowly. Nathan searches the shelf and finds a rusted letter opener in a cracked ceramic cup marked Ashford line. He slides the tip under the lock and twists gently. The metal gives with a small pop, so quiet it feels respectful. Nathan lifts the lid. Inside, everything has been wrapped in plastic and tied with rubber bands that have gone brittle with age. There is a notebook with a black cover, a stack of photographs, a folded map, a cassette tape, 2 more train tickets, and a letter sealed in an envelope with Nathan's name written across it. Not Captain, not Son, just Nate. He reaches for the notebook first because the letter feels too direct, too alive. The first page has a date from 10 years ago, 2 years after Emily vanished, 6 months before Thomas Walker died. The words begin without ceremony. If you are reading this, Ranger did his job better than I did. Nathan stops there. His throat closes around the sentence. Ranger lies down beside him, chin on paws, eyes fixed on the open box like a soldier standing watch at a door. Nathan reads on. Thomas writes about buying Ranger from a retired K-9 handler outside Pittsburgh after the sheriff's department reduced its search efforts. Ranger was older even then, trained for tracking, calm under pressure, stubborn with scent. Thomas writes that the first time he brought him to Ashford Station, the dog went straight to bench 7 and would not leave. He lay there until morning. After that, Thomas returned every Thursday before sunrise, because Thursday was the day Emily disappeared, and because grief, when it cannot find answers, builds rituals out of love. Nathan turns the page with shaking fingers. His father had drawn the station by hand. Every door, every hallway, every storage room, every maintenance corridor beneath the platforms. Small arrows mark places Ranger reacted. Bench 7. Ticket booth. Storage closet. Clock tower steps. East service tunnel. Beside the tunnel, Thomas had written one word. Again. Nathan looks up toward the outer station, toward the direction of the platforms beyond the walls. The building feels different now. Not haunted in the way people mean when they want fear. Haunted by effort. Haunted by a father's boots crossing the same floor before dawn, by a dog's nose pressed to cracks in the wood, by prayers said through clenched teeth so no one would hear them break. Nathan flips to a later page. Thomas writes that the night Emily vanished, 3 other families in neighboring counties reported unusual calls from blocked numbers near train stations. Nothing proven. Nothing enough for a courtroom. But enough for a father who could not accept coincidence as an answer. He had collected schedules, ticket stubs, missing person flyers, and witness statements from people the officials had already grown tired of questioning. He had not been chasing a ghost. He had been building a pattern. Nathan feels a sharp wave of shame, quiet but complete. While his father searched, Nathan ran back to the Marines. He told himself service was discipline. He told himself distance was duty. He told himself he was honoring Emily by becoming useful somewhere else. But all these years, part of him knew he had also left his father alone with the ruins. I should have stayed, Nathan whispers. Ranger lifts his head. The dog does not understand guilt the way people do. Dogs do not measure the past in blame. They measure the present in who is still willing to stand up. Nathan turns another page. There is a photograph tucked between the sheets. It falls into his lap face down. He picks it up and turns it over. For a moment, the storage room disappears. The photograph shows Thomas Walker sitting on the station platform in a brown work coat, one hand resting on Ranger's back. Beside them, on bench 7, sits a small vase with wildflowers. The photo must have been taken by someone else, maybe a station worker, maybe a friend, maybe just the timer on an old camera. Thomas is not smiling, but his face is softer than Nathan remembers from those final years. On the back, he has written, "Still waiting with her." Nathan presses the photograph to his mouth and closes his eyes. He sees his father not as the silent man at the table, not as the body in the flag-draped casket, but as a father bringing flowers to an empty bench because hope needed somewhere to sit. The rain softens. Somewhere in the station, water drips through a pipe in a slow, hollow rhythm. Nathan opens the envelope with his name. The paper inside is yellowed but dry. His father's voice rises from it, plain and steady, the way he used to speak while teaching Nathan how to change oil or fold a flag. "Nate, if Ranger brings you here, it means he still remembers the scent and you finally came back. Do not be angry at him for waiting so long. Dogs do not work on our clocks. They work on love." Nathan swallows hard and keeps reading. "I know you blamed yourself. I blame myself too. Your mother blamed the rain, then God, then nobody, because blaming takes strength and she had spent hers surviving. But listen to me now. Emily loved you. That did not vanish with her. Whatever happened after that night, whatever answers we find or never find, do not build a life out of the 1 hour you were late. A man is more than the worst thing he failed to do." Nathan's eyes burn. He looks away, but there is nowhere in the little room that does not hold his father's presence. The map, the notes, the dog, the folded ticket with home written in Emily's hand. He reads the last lines of the letter. "There is a place under the clock tower where Ranger keeps returning. I was too tired to finish. Maybe I was too afraid. If you are ready, follow him there. And son, when you find whatever is left, do not forget to come home too." Nathan lowers the letter. His hand rests on Ranger's head, fingers sinking into damp fur. The dog leans into the touch with a tired sigh, as if he has carried the message long enough and can finally set a corner of it down. Nathan sits in silence, surrounded by the careful work of a father he had misunderstood. Outside the storage room, the station waits. Bench 7 waits. Platform 2 waits. The stopped clock waits at 9:42, its hands holding the minute Nathan's family was split into before and after. He gathers the notebook, the map, the letter, and the protected ticket, placing each one back in the lockbox except the map, which he unfolds across his knees. The clock tower is marked with a circle. Beneath it, written in red, are the words East Stairwell, Lower Wall, Hollow Space. Ranger rises before Nathan asks, "Old bones." "Certain heart." He walks to the doorway and looks back. This time Nathan does not hesitate. He closes the box, tucks it under one arm, and follows the dog out of the storage room into the gray breath of the station. As they pass bench 7, Nathan pauses just long enough to touch the backrest with 2 fingers. "I am here now, Em," he says softly. The words do not fix anything. They do not open the sky, but they stay in the room like a small light. Ranger leads him toward the platforms, toward the clock tower, toward the place Thomas was too tired or too afraid to finish, and with every step Nathan feels the old ticket against his chest, light as paper, heavy as mercy. Ranger leads Nathan out of the ticket booth and across the main hall, not quickly, but with the steady purpose of a dog who has followed the same invisible thread for years. The old station opens around them in layers of gray light. Rain slips through the broken roof and runs down the walls in thin, shining lines. A faded poster for a fall harvest fair curls away from the brick near the restrooms. A row of pay phones hangs useless and silent, their cords cut by time, their metal faces dulled by dust. Nathan walks with the lockbox under one arm and his father's map in his free hand, though he barely needs to look at it. Ranger seems to carry the map inside his bones. Every pause, every turn, every small lift of his nose points them closer to the clock tower. They pass bench 7 again, and Nathan feels the pull of it like gravity. He almost stops. He can almost see Emily there, white sneakers crossed at the ankles, blue ribbon at her wrist, pretending not to be scared while the station emptied around her. But Ranger does not stop, and Nathan understands. Some places are for remembering. Others are for answering. The platform doors stand ahead, one hanging open on a rusted hinge. Beyond them, platform 2 stretches beneath a long metal canopy, wet and empty, the yellow safety line faded to a ghost of paint. Weeds grow between the rails, tall and bright green against the dark wood ties. The clock tower rises at the far end, built into the corner of the station where the brickwork narrows and climbs. Its face looks down over the platform with cracked glass eyes, the black hands frozen at 9:42. Nathan steps outside, and the air changes. It is colder here. Open. The rain comes sideways, carried by wind moving along the tracks from the north. He pulls his jacket tighter and follows Ranger past old benches, a broken vending machine, and a sign that still reads, "Please stand behind the line." The words hit Nathan harder than they should. All his life since that night has been a line he could not step behind. Before Emily. After Emily. Before the call. After the silence. Before his father still believed. After his father sat alone at the kitchen table with maps and coffee gone cold. Ranger reaches the base of the clock tower steps and stops. The steps are narrow concrete, slick with moss along the edges, leading to a side door beneath the tower. The door is not fully closed. A chain hangs from the handle, but the padlock is open, rusted in place as if someone unlocked it years ago and never had the strength to go farther. Nathan's hand tightens around the map. East stairwell, lower wall, hollow space. He remembers his father's letter. "I was too tired to finish. Maybe I was too afraid." Nathan looks down at Ranger. The dog's chest rises and falls more heavily now. The walk has cost him something. His muzzle is wet, his paws dark with mud, and the gray around his face looks almost silver in the morning light. "You have been carrying this a long time," Nathan says. Ranger nudges the open chain with his nose. Metal taps softly against the door, a small bell in a dead station. Nathan pushes the door inward. It opens to a stairwell that smells of limestone, damp dust, and old leaves. His phone light spills across concrete walls marked by water stains. The steps descend first, not up, curving beneath the tower toward the service level under the platform. Nathan had never known there was a lower stairwell here. Maybe most people had not. Maybe that was why his father circled it in red. Ranger goes first, slowly. Nathan follows one step at a time, keeping a hand on the wall. The air grows cooler. The sound of rain becomes muffled overhead, replaced by the drip of water somewhere below and the faint hum of distant traffic beyond the station grounds. At the bottom, the stairwell opens into a short maintenance corridor. Pipes run along the ceiling. Old electrical boxes line one wall. The floor is dry in patches, wet in others, shining under the phone light. Ranger walks halfway down the corridor, then stops at the lower section of the left wall, where the plaster looks different. Newer, but still old. Patched. Uneven. Nathan kneels. His father's map trembles in his hand. He touches the wall. It sounds solid at first. He taps again lower. This time the sound changes. Hollow. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just different enough for a man who has spent years listening for things no one else hears. Ranger sits beside him and lets out a long breath. Nathan sets the lockbox down and finds an old metal bracket lying near the pipes. He uses it carefully, scraping away loose plaster from the edge of the patch. No force. No anger. Just patient work. The way his father would have done it. Small flakes fall to the floor. Dust rises and catches in the phone light. Behind the plaster is a narrow wooden panel, fitted into the wall with care. Nathan's pulse begins to climb. He works the bracket into the seam and lifts. The panel shifts. Something inside slides softly, like paper moving against metal. Nathan pauses, closes his eyes for one breath, then removes the panel. Behind it is a hollow space about 2 feet wide. Inside rests a small tin box wrapped in oilcloth, a folded envelope, and a child's music book with the cover bent at the corners. Nathan does not touch the box first. His hand goes to the music book. He knows it before he reads the title. Emily's Beginner Piano Book. Yellow cover. Little drawings of notes with smiling faces. She hated that cover. She said it made music look silly, and music was not silly. Music was where feelings went when people were too proud to say them. Nathan opens the book, and a folded sheet slips out. He catches it against his palm. It is staff paper, the kind Emily used for practice. But instead of notes, she had written words between the lines in pencil. The letters are faint, but they are hers. "Tell Nate I knew he would come." Nathan stops breathing for a moment. The corridor seems to tilt around him, not from fear, but from the sudden arrival of something he had prayed for and dreaded in the same breath. Ranger shifts closer, pressing his shoulder against Nathan's arm. Nathan reads the sentence again. Not I hope. Not maybe. I knew. The faith in it is almost unbearable. He sits back against the wall, holding the paper with both hands. 12 years of guilt had taught him a cruel story. That Emily waited alone, frightened, believing he had forgotten her. That her last thoughts of him were shaped by disappointment. That his lateness was the final thing she carried. But here, in a hidden wall beneath a dead clock, her pencil tells a different story. She believed he would come. Late maybe. Broken maybe. Years too late, maybe. But come. Nathan presses the paper gently against his chest and bows his head. He does not sob loudly. He has spent too many years learning how to keep sound inside. But tears come anyway, quiet and warm against the cold air, falling onto the sleeve of the Marine Corps jacket he wore like armor and suddenly feels like cloth. I did come, Em, he whispers. I am sorry it took me so long. Ranger lays his head on Nathan's knee. The dog's breath is slow, his eyes half closed, as if this is not a discovery, but a duty fulfilled. After a while, Nathan reaches for the envelope. It is sealed in plastic, addressed in Thomas Walker's handwriting to Sheriff Hollis, but never delivered. Inside are copies of the same pattern from the folders, along with a note from Thomas explaining that Ranger had tracked Emily's scent from bench 7 to the clock tower stairwell, then lost it near the service corridor where the wall had been patched. There is no accusation in the note, no wild claim, just dates, times, locations, and a father's careful plea for one more search. Nathan folds it slowly. His father had tried. Not loudly, not perfectly, but faithfully. Then Nathan opens the tin box. Inside are 2 items wrapped in tissue. The first is Emily's blue hair clip shaped like a small butterfly, faded but whole. The second is another train ticket, better preserved than the rest. It carries Emily's full name, Emily Grace Walker, printed in official ink. The destination line is blank, but on the back, in her pencil, she has drawn the same little house Nathan saw before. Under it, the word home. Beneath that, smaller, almost hidden near the bottom edge, is one more line. Do not let this place stay sad forever. Nathan covers his mouth with his hand. The station above them creaks softly in the wind. Rainwater travels through the pipes with a gentle rush, like distant applause, like a river under stone. He looks at Ranger, at the old dog who had brought him through rain, through memory, through the narrow doorway of a grief he had sealed shut. She wanted it changed, Nathan says. His voice is hoarse. Ranger lifts his head. Nathan looks down at the ticket again. Do not let this place stay sad forever. He thinks of the empty hall upstairs, the broken benches. The clock stopped at the minute everyone gave up. He thinks of other families in his father's folders, other names carried by old paper, other parents who may have stood in stations under bad lights waiting for answers that came back thin and cold. He does not know yet what can be proven. He does not know whether Emily is gone, hidden somewhere in the vast mercy of the world, or resting in a place no map can reach. But for the first time, the not knowing does not feel like only a punishment. It feels like a responsibility. Nathan gathers the paper, the ticket, the music book, the butterfly clip, and his father's note, placing them carefully into the lockbox. Then he slips the old ticket with home into his jacket beside the one marked Nate. 2 tickets now. One calling him back. One asking him to build something from the ruins. He stands slowly in the narrow corridor, and Ranger stands with him, old and wet and faithful beyond explanation. Above them, the clock remains frozen at 9:42, but Nathan no longer sees only the minute he failed. He sees the minute his father began searching, the minute Ranger began remembering, the minute Emily left behind a command softer than forgiveness and stronger than shame. Do not let this place stay sad forever. Nathan touches the wall once before replacing the panel, not to hide the truth again, but to honor the place where it waited. Then he turns toward the stairs. Come on, Ranger, he says softly. We have more to do. The dog climbs ahead of him, slower now, but certain, carrying no paper in his mouth this time because the message has finally reached the man it was meant for. Nathan climbs the narrow stairwell behind Ranger with the lockbox held close against his side, and for the first time since he entered the station, he notices how the light has changed. The morning has not become bright, not exactly, but the rain has thinned into a silver mist that hangs over the platform and softens the broken edges of everything it touches. The cracked clock face above them still reads 9:42, yet the air beneath it feels less like a sentence and more like a held breath. Ranger steps out onto platform 2 and pauses. His legs tremble slightly from the climb, but his head stays high. Nathan sees it now with painful clarity. This old German shepherd has not been wandering. He has been reporting for duty. Year after year, storm after storm, Thursday after Thursday maybe, coming back to the same bench, the same door, the same wall, carrying a memory no human had stayed brave enough to follow. Nathan kneels beside him and sets the lockbox on the platform. "You did good," he says, his voice low. Ranger turns his amber eyes toward him, and there is something almost relieved in the stillness there. Not proud. Dogs are not proud in the way men are. He only looks tired in the sacred way of someone who has kept faith past the point where anyone would have blamed him for letting go. Nathan opens the lockbox again beneath the clock tower awning, careful to shield the papers from the mist. His father's notebook lies on top, its black cover dull with age. The map is folded beside it. Emily's music book rests under the tin box, the faded yellow cover looking strangely gentle against the military green metal. Nathan takes out the envelope meant for Sheriff Hollis and reads his father's note again, slower this time, not as a son drowning in discovery, but as a Marine trained to see what is there. Thomas had written about the pattern along the rail line. Not accusations, not names, just dates, ticket numbers, platforms, weather conditions, and small pieces of witness memory that no one had connected because each family's sorrow had been filed in a separate drawer. A girl seen near an empty baggage cart in Lancaster. A boy waiting near a closed ticket window in York. A child's backpack found beside a rural stop outside Carlisle. Emily's scent leading from bench 7 to the lower wall beneath the clock tower, then stopping where plaster had been patched. Nathan's jaw tightens, but he does not let anger take over. Anger is loud. His father's work is quiet, and quiet deserves to be heard clearly. He pulls out his phone. There is only one bar of service. Enough. He calls the Ashford County Sheriff's Office and asks for Deputy Laura Jennings. He remembers her from high school, before uniforms and grief turned them both into different people. When she answers, her voice is cautious, professional, then softer when she recognizes him. Nathan. He looks across the tracks, where weeds bend under the mist. "Laura, I need you at the old station." There is a pause. "Are you hurt?" "No," he looks at Ranger. "But I found something my father left. It is about Emily. And others." The silence on the line changes. Becomes awake. "Do not touch anything else," she says. "I am on my way." Nathan almost smiles at that, because he has already touched everything that mattered. Not careless. Reverent. "Still," he says, "I will wait." After the call ends, the station settles around him again. Ranger lowers himself onto the platform with a long exhale. Nathan slips off his jacket and lays it over the dog's back, shielding him from the mist. The jacket is dark blue, worn soft at the cuffs, the small Marine Corps emblem near the chest dulled from years of washing. Ranger accepts it without protest, resting his chin on his paws. The sight of that old service dog under that old Marine jacket makes Nathan look away for a moment. Some things are too gentle to stare at directly. While they wait, he walks back inside the main hall, leaving the platform doors open so he can see Ranger from where he stands. The station seems to watch him. Not accusingly now. Patiently. Nathan moves to bench 7 and sits down. The wood is cold through his jeans. Dust marks the edges of his hands. This is the place where Emily waited. This is the place where Ranger lay until morning. This is the place where Thomas brought wildflowers. Nathan sets Emily's music book on his knees and opens it. The pages smell faintly of paper, pencil, and damp years. Between practice scales and childish notes, Emily had written little reminders to herself. Slow down. Left hand softer. Ask Nate about Nashville. Do not forget blue. Ribbon. The ordinary tenderness of it nearly breaks him again. Not because it is tragic, but because it is alive. She had been more than the worst night of their lives. She had been a girl who wanted music to matter, who drew houses on train tickets, who believed her brother would come even when the clock said he was late. Nathan turns another page and finds something folded inside, tucked so deep near the spine that even his father might have missed it. A small piece of notebook paper, creased twice. His hand still. He opens it carefully. The pencil is faint, but the words remain. "Nate, if you find this, Do not be mad at Dad. He keeps trying to be strong, but I think he is scared too. Tell Mom I love her pancakes, even when she burns the edges. Tell Dad the dog with the serious eyes made me feel safe. And tell yourself I was not angry. I knew you would come because you always came when it mattered. Nathan bends forward until his forehead nearly touches the paper. The sentence enters him with no thunder. No grand miracle. Just a small clean cut through 12 years of shame. You always came when it mattered. He had built his punishment around the one night he did not. Emily, somehow, had remembered the brother before the failure. He sees himself at 17 carrying her on his back through a flooded street after a summer storm. At 20 teaching her how to change a tire in their driveway, while she pretended to hate it and secretly loved knowing. At 24 telling her he would pick her up after piano practice, then arriving to an empty bench and a life split open. He has lived inside the last version of himself for so long he forgot there were others. Emily had not forgotten. Outside, tires crunch over gravel. Nathan lifts his head. Through the broken windows, he sees two sheriff's vehicles pull near the station entrance. Lights on, but sirens silent. Deputy Laura Jennings steps out first, rain hood pulled over her blonde hair, face pale and focused. Two others follow with gloves, evidence bags, and the careful movements of people entering a place where grief has legal weight. Nathan folds Emily's note and places it back inside the music book. He stands as Laura enters the hall. She stops when she sees him, and for a second they are not deputy and Marine, just two people from the same town standing inside a memory nobody fixed. Her eyes move to the lockbox on the platform, then to Ranger under Nathan's jacket. Is that dog yours? She asks quietly. Nathan looks back at Ranger. No, he says. Then, after a breath, maybe he was my father's. Maybe he was Emily's last witness. Maybe he is the reason we are finally standing here. Laura does not smile. She nods once, the kind of nod people give when the world has become too serious for disbelief. Nathan hands her Thomas's envelope. My father tried to give this to Sheriff Hollis. I do not know why it never got there. Laura reads the name, and something shifts in her expression. Not guilt exactly. Recognition. Hollis retired 8 years ago, she says. A lot of boxes from his office went into county storage. Nathan hears the unspoken possibility. His father's plea may not have been ignored by malice. It may have been buried by procedure, age, carelessness, and the exhausted machinery of small-town offices. Somehow that hurts differently. Not cleaner, just more human. Laura looks at the papers, then at him. We will reopen the file. Nathan wants to ask if that means anything. He wants to demand promises, timelines, certainty. But Ranger lifts his head from the platform and gives one soft sound, a weary breath that pulls Nathan's eyes back to what matters. Not revenge, not noise, continuance. The work beginning again. Laura and the deputies move carefully through the station, photographing the ticket booth, the storage room, the clock tower stairwell, the hollow wall. Nathan stays near bench 7 with Ranger now beside him, the dog leaning lightly against his leg. The old station fills, for the first time in years, with living footsteps that are not afraid to listen. Nathan watches gloved hands lift folders his father labeled, watches evidence markers appear beside the claw marks under the bench, watches Emily's blue ribbon placed gently into a clear bag like something holy enough to change how people breathe. As noon approaches, the rain stops. A narrow beam of sunlight breaks through the clouds and slips through the cracked windows, landing across the floor between bench 7 and the ticket booth. Dust shines in it like tiny bells. Nathan stands in that light with one hand resting on Ranger's head. He does not feel healed. Healing is too large a word for one morning. But something inside him has shifted from stone to soil. Something buried has become capable of receiving rain. Laura returns to him with Thomas's notebook held carefully in both hands. Nathan, she says, her voice lower now. There is one more page in the back. I think you should see it before we take it in. She turns the notebook around. On the final page, beneath a pressed wildflower flattened by time, Thomas had written a single sentence. If the station ever speaks again, let it speak for all of them. Nathan reads it once. Then again. Ranger steps forward and touches his nose to the edge of the bench. Nathan looks around the station, at the broken roof, the old ticket windows, the platform where the stop clock still holds 9:42. For 12 years, this place has spoken only of loss. But Emily had asked him not to let it stay sad forever. His father had asked it to speak for all of them. Ranger had brought him back to hear both. Nathan closes the notebook gently and looks toward the sunlight crossing the floor. He does not know yet how a man rebuilds a place like this. He only knows that, for the first time, he wants to try. Nathan stays in Ashford Station until the last sheriff's vehicle leaves and the last stripe of afternoon light fades from the broken windows. By then, the rain has passed east, leaving the world washed and quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after a storm has said everything it came to say. Deputy Laura Jennings promises him the files will not disappear again. She says the county will bring in cold case investigators, that the old station will be secured, that Thomas Walker's notes will be reviewed with care. Nathan listens, nods, and thanks her, but the words reach him from far away. His eyes keep returning to Ranger, who lies beside bench 7 with Nathan's Marine Corps jacket still draped across his back. The old dog has not moved much since noon. He watches people come and go through half-closed eyes, calm as a sentry at the end of a long post. When Laura finally steps close and looks down at him, her voice softens. He should see a veterinarian, Nathan. Nathan does not answer right away. He kneels and slips one hand under Ranger's chin. The fur there is wet but warm. Ranger opens his eyes and gives one slow blink, as if acknowledging a command no one has spoken. I know, Nathan says. He is coming with me. The words surprise him only after they leave his mouth. Coming with me. Not the dog. Not my father's dog. Not evidence. Ranger. A name. A living soul. A promise with pause. Laura studies Nathan for a moment, then looks toward the ticket booth, the platform, the stopped clock above them. Your father would be glad, she says. Nathan swallows. I hope so. I think he already was, she says, and leaves it there, because some kindness works best when it does not try to explain itself. Nathan waits until the red taillights vanish beyond the chain-link fence before he gathers the lockbox, Emily's music book, and the protected copies Laura allowed him to keep. The originals are gone in careful bags, labeled and witnessed, carried back into the world where truth must wear paperwork to be believed. But the feeling of them remains in his hands. The blue ribbon, the butterfly clip, the ticket marked home, the note that said Emily was not angry. Those things have already entered him deeper than evidence can go. Ranger rises slowly when Nathan lifts the jacket from his back. His legs stiffen, then steady. Nathan slips the jacket on, feeling the warmth the dog left inside the fabric. Ready, he asks. Ranger looks toward bench 7. Nathan understands. He walks to the bench and stands there one last time before leaving. The brass number plate catches the last light. Dust has been disturbed all around it now. Footprints overlap. Evidence markers are gone, but faint squares remain where they sat. Nathan rests his palm on the worn backrest. For years, he imagined this bench as a witness against him. Now it feels like an altar for everything his family could not say out loud. We are not done, he whispers. I promise. Ranger steps beside him and touches his nose to the bench. Then he turns toward the doors. Outside, the evening is cool, Pennsylvania spring air carrying the smell of wet gravel, cut grass from distant yards, and the faint mineral scent of old rails. Nathan opens the passenger door of his pickup truck and hesitates, not sure whether Ranger can climb in. The dog looks at the seat, then at Nathan, and for one brief second there is something almost dryly amused in his eyes, as if to say he has crossed far worse ground than this. Still, Nathan helps him up carefully, one hand beneath his chest, the other steadying his hind legs. Ranger settles on the worn blanket across the seat, circles once, and lies down with his muzzle pointed toward the windshield. Nathan places the lockbox on the floorboard and shuts the door gently. As he drives through town, Ashford looks ordinary again, and that ordinariness feels almost impossible. Porch lights glow. A man rolls a trash bin to the curb. Two teenagers in baseball uniforms cross the street near the diner, laughing under their breath. Life has continued without asking permission from grief. Nathan used to hate that. Tonight, he thinks maybe it is the only reason anyone survives. At the veterinary clinic on Maple Avenue, Dr. Helen Morris meets them after hours. She is in her late 50s, white-haired, kind-eyed, with a voice that seems trained by years of calming both animals and frightened owners. She remembers Thomas Walker. Everyone in Ashford remembers Thomas Walker. When Nathan tells her Ranger's name, Her hand stills on the examination table. Tom brought him here once, she says. Years ago. Just once. Said the dog was helping him search. Nathan looks down. Ranger stands patiently on the rubber mat while Dr. Morris checks his eyes, his teeth, his hips, his heart. The room smells of antiseptic, dog treats, and warm towels. A small American flag sits in a mug near the computer. Outside the window, dusk turns the parking lot blue. He is old, she says gently. Very old for a shepherd. Arthritis. A little dehydration. Exhaustion. But his heart is stronger than I expected. Nathan lets out a breath he did not know he was holding. Dr. Morris smiles faintly. That does not mean he should be running around abandoned stations. Ranger turns his head toward her, serious and calm. She raises both hands slightly. All right. Point taken. Maybe he had an appointment to keep. Nathan almost laughs, and the sound feels strange in his chest, like a window opening in a house sealed too long. Dr. Morris gives Ranger fluids, a mild pain reliever safe for his age, and a soft blanket that smells of clean cotton. When she finishes, she places a small biscuit near his paws. Ranger waits until Nathan nods before eating it. Still trained, Nathan says. Still loyal, she answers. On the drive home, the sky clears completely. The first stars appear over the rooftops, pale and patient. Nathan has not brought anyone to his house in months. Not friends. Not family. Not even the neighbor who sometimes offers casseroles he politely refuses. The little ranch house sits at the edge of town, 1 mile from the old rail spur, white siding, dark shutters, a porch his father helped build before Emily disappeared. Nathan usually enters through the garage, avoids the front hallway, eats over the sink, and sleeps badly. Tonight, he opens the front door wide so Ranger can enter like he belongs there. The dog pauses on the threshold. His nose lifts. He breathes in the house slowly. Wood polish, old coffee, laundry soap, the faint smell of photographs and closed rooms. Then he steps inside. Nathan turns on a lamp. Warm light spills over the living room, touching the worn couch, the bookshelf, the framed flag from his father's funeral, and a small piano against the far wall covered by a sheet. He forgot the piano was still there. No, not forgot. Chose not to remember. Emily's upright piano, brought from their parents' house after their mother moved to Florida to live near her sister. It has sat silent for years beneath that white sheet, like another ghost Nathan did not know how to greet. Ranger walks straight to it. Of course he does. Nathan stands frozen as the dog lowers his nose to the sheet, then looks back. No, Nathan whispers, but the word has no force left. Ranger waits. Nathan crosses the room slowly and pulls the sheet away. Dust rises in a soft cloud. The dark wood gleams underneath, scratched near the bench where Emily used to kick her heels. On the music stand sits an old book Nathan must have left there when he moved it in. Beginner Lessons, Volume 2. The same series as the book from the station. He opens the cover. Inside, in Emily's handwriting, is a small note written years before she vanished. Nate owes me one trip to Nashville. Do not let him forget. Nathan closes his eyes. The pain comes, but it is different now. Not a blade. A bell. Clear, ringing, asking to be heard. Ranger lies down beside the piano bench with a sigh that fills the room. Nathan sits on the bench. His fingers hover over the keys. He is not a pianist. Emily was the music in the family. But he remembers one thing she taught him, a simple line with the right hand, 5 notes climbing and falling like a child learning courage. He presses the first key. The note is badly out of tune. Thin. Wounded. Alive. Ranger lifts his head. Nathan presses the next note, then the next. The little melody stumbles through the quiet house, uneven and tender. By the 5th note, Nathan is crying again, not from shock this time, not from guilt alone, but from the unbearable mercy of being allowed to touch what he thought he had lost forever. The house does not collapse under the sound. The walls do not accuse him. The night does not take it back. Ranger rests his head on Nathan's boot, and Nathan keeps playing the 5 notes until his hand stops shaking. Later, he makes a bed for Ranger beside the couch with 2 blankets and an old towel. He sets a bowl of water nearby and places his father's lockbox on the coffee table. The old German shepherd circles twice, lowers himself with care, and exhales deeply, as if the floor beneath him is the first safe ground he has felt in years. Nathan sits beside him on the rug. He takes out Emily's ticket, the one with home written on the back, and holds it under the lamplight. Do not let this place stay sad forever. The words return without sound. He thinks of the station, the broken clock, the empty benches, the names in his father's files, the parents who may still need somewhere to bring flowers, the children who deserve to be remembered as songs, not cases. He picks up his phone and opens a blank note. His thumbs hover, then begin to type. Ashford Station Memorial and K9 Search Fund. It is only a phrase. Nothing built. No permits. No money. No approval. But the phrase sits there glowing on the screen, small as a match in a dark room. Ranger sleeps beside him, breathing slow. Nathan looks at the dog, then at the ticket, then at the silent piano. For the first time in 12 years, the future does not look like punishment. It looks like work. Holy, ordinary work. The kind that begins with one man, one old dog, one promise spoken in a room where grief finally has to make space for grace. By morning, Nathan has not slept much, but the house feels less like a place he has been hiding and more like a place that has been waiting for someone to turn the lights back on. Ranger sleeps beside the couch under a folded blanket from the veterinary clinic, his paws moving once in a dream, his breathing deep and even. The old German shepherd looks smaller in sleep, not weak, just released from duty for a few hours. Nathan stands in the kitchen with a mug of black coffee cooling in his hand, watching the first pale sunlight gather along the edge of the window over the sink. Outside, the yard is wet from yesterday's rain. Droplets cling to the grass. A robin hops near the porch steps, pulls a worm from the soil, and flies off toward the maple tree. Ordinary life. Quiet life. The kind he used to resent because it kept going without Emily. Now it feels like a door left open by mercy. On the kitchen table, he has spread his father's copies, Emily's music book, photographs of the station, and the note he typed on his phone the night before. Ashford Station Memorial and K9 Search Fund. He reads the words again in the clear morning light. They look fragile, too small for the size of the grief behind them, too large for a man who has spent 12 years avoiding committee meetings, phone calls, neighbors, and anything that sounded like hope. But Emily's pencil keeps returning to him. Do not let this place stay sad forever. His father's final page follows it like a second voice. Let it speak for all of them. Nathan sets down the coffee and opens his laptop. The screen glows blue against the old wood table his mother refused to sell. He writes an email to Deputy Laura Jennings first, thanking her for reopening the file and asking what legal steps would be needed to preserve the station. Then he writes to the mayor, a man named Bill Carden who used to coach Little League and who once stood in Nathan's driveway with a casserole after Emily disappeared because he did not know what else to bring. Nathan does not make a speech. He tells the truth plainly. My father kept records. My sister left a note. The station should not be torn down. It should become a place where families can remember, where K9 teams can train, and where no missing child is reduced to a file number. He reads it twice, removes one angry sentence, removes one sentence that sounds like begging, then presses send before fear can put its hands back on the wheel. Ranger lifts his head from the living room. Nathan turns. I did it, he says. Ranger watches him as if he expected no less, then lowers his head again. By noon, the town begins to answer. Not all at once. Not like a movie where the world becomes kind in a single scene. First, Laura calls and says the sheriff's office will support a preservation hold while investigators review the evidence. Then Dr. Morris leaves a message offering to contact retired K9 handlers in the county. A church secretary named Mrs. Paley writes that the women's group can help clean the station if it is cleared safe. A man who owns a hardware store offers plywood, paint, and locks at cost. The mayor does not reply until late afternoon, and when he does, his email contains only 2 sentences. Come to the council meeting tonight. Bring what you can share. Nathan stares at those words for a long time. His stomach tightens in the old way. Rooms full of people are harder for him than empty stations. Empty stations do not look away when grief speaks. People do. He closes the laptop and looks toward Ranger. The dog is awake. Now, sitting beside the piano, the blanket sliding from his shoulders. Nathan has no idea how he moved there without making a sound. You want to go back out? Nathan asks. Ranger's tail moves once against the floor. Not excited. Certain. So Nathan puts the old leather collar piece in his pocket, tucks copies of the tickets and notes into a folder, and helps Ranger into the pickup. The council meeting is held in the basement of First Methodist because the town hall roof is being repaired. Folding chairs line the room. Fluorescent lights hum overhead. The smell of coffee, old hymnals, and lemon floor cleaner fills the air. About 30 people have come, more than Nathan expected and fewer than the station deserves. Some faces he knows, some he has avoided for years. Sheriff deputies stand near the back. Dr. Morris sits in the second row. Mayor Cardin stands behind a folding table with a paper agenda and a gavel nobody uses. When Nathan enters with Ranger, conversation fades into a hush, so sudden it feels like snow falling indoors. Ranger walks at his left side, slow but dignified, wearing a borrowed harness from Dr. Morris that says retired K9 in white letters. Nathan's heart pounds harder than it did beneath the clock tower. He keeps one hand lightly on Ranger's back until they reach the front. Mayor Cardin clears his throat. "Nathan, thank you for coming." Nathan nods. He opens the folder. For a second, all he sees are hands. His own hands on paper. His father's hands writing notes. Emily's hands drawing a little house. Then Ranger leans his shoulder against Nathan's leg, and the room steadies. Nathan speaks without raising his voice. He tells them about the ticket Ranger carried. He tells them about Bench 7, the claw marks, the collar marked with Thomas Walker's initials, the storage room, the clock tower wall, the blue ribbon, the music book, the note Emily left, and the folders with other children's names. He does not describe more than he knows. He does not make the story bigger to force tears from people. The truth is already heavy enough. When he reads Emily's line aloud, "Do not let this place stay sad forever," the room goes completely still. Mrs. Paley presses a tissue to her mouth. A man near the back removes his baseball cap. Mayor Cardin looks down at the table. Nathan lifts his eyes and continues. "My father spent the last years of his life trying to get someone to listen. I spent those same years trying not to hear anything. Yesterday, this dog brought me back. I cannot change what happened. I cannot promise answers for every family in those folders. But I can help make sure that station stops being a locked room full of dust and becomes something useful. A memorial. A training center for search dogs. A place where families can bring flowers and children can learn that a name is never just a name." His voice catches, but does not break. Ranger stays beside him, quiet as a prayer. For a long moment, no one speaks. Then Dr. Morris stands. "I will volunteer veterinary support for any K9 training held there." Another person rises. "I can handle electrical inspection." Someone else says, "My son does roofing." A retired teacher offers to help collect the stories of the missing children. A mother from the next town asks if her daughter's name is in Thomas Walker's folders, and Nathan answers gently that the investigators will check, that nobody will be forgotten, that he will make sure of it if he has to write every name by hand. The meeting changes after that, not into celebration, into work. Sacred, ordinary work. Clipboards appear. Phone numbers are written down. The mayor agrees to propose an emergency preservation vote. Laura explains the legal limits around the active investigation, and people listen. Not perfectly. People interrupt, ask the wrong questions, offer ideas too soon. But beneath all the human clumsiness, something good begins to move. Like air returning to a sealed room. Near the end of the meeting, an elderly woman Nathan does not recognize walks forward. She is small, white-haired, wearing a raincoat though the evening is clear. Her hands tremble slightly as she holds out a folded photograph. "My grandson, Peter, disappeared from the Carlisle stop," she says. "Your father called me once. I thought he was just another heartbroken parent. I did not know he kept looking." Nathan takes the photograph with both hands. A boy smiles up from it, front tooth missing, baseball glove under one arm. Nathan feels the responsibility settle deeper, not as weight meant to crush him, but as a burden shaped for carrying. "What was his full name?" he asks. "Peter Allen Whitcomb," she says. Nathan repeats it softly. Peter Allen Whitcomb. A name in the room. A name no longer alone. Ranger steps forward and sniffs the edge of the photograph, then sits beside the woman's shoes. She bends slowly and rests her fingertips on his head. Her face folds with quiet tears. "Good dog," she whispers. Ranger closes his eyes. In that basement with humming lights and folding chairs, no mystery is solved. No lost child walks through the door. No clock turns back. But something holy happens anyway. People who have carried separate griefs begin to recognize the same thread running through them all. A Marine who believed he arrived too late stands beside an old German shepherd who never stopped arriving. And a town that once locked its sorrow behind plywood begins, awkwardly and bravely, to unlock it. When the meeting ends, Mayor Cardin approaches Nathan with tired eyes and a steadier voice than before. "We will vote tomorrow," he says. "I think it will pass." Nathan looks down at Ranger, then at the folder in his hands, then at the photograph of Peter Allen Whitcomb now carefully tucked beside Emily's note. "It has to," he says. Outside, the night air is cool and clean. Stars show above the church steeple. People linger on the sidewalk, speaking softly, exchanging numbers, offering rides, holding doors for one another. Nathan helps Ranger into the truck and pauses before closing the door. The old dog looks at him from the passenger seat, eyes shining faintly in the streetlight. Nathan touches the side of his face. "You brought the whole town back. Did you know that?" Ranger exhales through his nose and rests his chin on the blanket. Nathan closes the door gently. As he walks around to the driver's side, the church bell rings once, not for the hour, but because someone inside must have pulled the rope by mistake. The note drifts across Ashford, low and warm, fading toward the old rail line. Nathan stands still until the sound disappears. Then he gets in the truck and drives toward home, not away from the past this time, but carrying it carefully into the work of mourning. The preservation vote passes the next morning without a single hand raised against it, and Nathan hears the news while standing in his kitchen beside Ranger, watching sunlight pour across the floorboards like something being forgiven. Mayor Cardin calls it a temporary protection order for Ashford Station, pending investigation and structural review, but Nathan hears something simpler beneath the official language. The town has chosen not to look away. He thanks the mayor, hangs up, and stands there with the phone in his hand while Ranger noses his empty water bowl across the tile with a soft scrape. Nathan looks down and lets out a quiet breath that almost becomes a laugh. "Right," he says, "one miracle at a time." The weeks that follow do not move like a rescue story people tell at church dinners. They move like real restoration, slow and stubborn, measured in forms, permits, safety tape, surbacks, and coffee poured into paper cups before sunrise. The sheriff's office seals the evidence rooms, and investigators reopen the connected cases with care. Engineers inspect the station and declare the main hall damaged but salvageable, the clock tower weak but standing, the platforms unsafe until repaired. Volunteers arrive on Saturdays wearing work gloves and old jeans. They do not touch what must be preserved. They clear weeds from the rail spur, haul rotted boards into dumpsters, wash soot and mildew from brick, and sweep dust from the floor where Emily's name once waited under silence. Nathan is there every day he can be, sometimes in work boots, sometimes in his Marine Corps jacket, always with Ranger resting nearby on a padded mat under the awning by bench 7. The old German shepherd cannot do much now. Dr. Morris says short walks only, no stairs, no long hours in the cold. Ranger obeys her in the practical way of an old soldier accepting orders from the medic, but his eyes remain fixed on the work. When volunteers pass, they lower their voices. Children ask, before touching him. Parents tell them, gentle, he has earned his rest. And Ranger accepts every small hand with the same calm dignity, as if he understands that comfort can also be a form of service. By late summer, the station begins to change, not into something new enough to erase the past, into something honest enough to hold it. The broken windows are repaired with clear glass. The main hall is cleaned, but not polished too brightly. Bench 7 remains where it always stood, restored by a retired carpenter who works for 3 evenings without charging $1. Above it, Nathan places a simple brass plaque with Emily Grace Walker's name, the date she disappeared, and one line from her note. Do not let this place stay sad forever. Nearby, another wall becomes a memorial for the names in Thomas Walker's folders, each one verified by investigators before being engraved. Peter Allen Whitcomb is among the first. His grandmother comes on the day the plaque is installed, wearing the same raincoat she wore to the council meeting, though the sky is perfectly blue. She brings a white rose and stands for a long time without speaking. Ranger, who has been sleeping beside Nathan's chair, rises slowly and walks to her. No one calls him. No one commands him. He simply goes. He sits at her feet and leans his shoulder against her leg. The woman places one trembling hand on his head and whispers, You remembered them, did you not? Ranger closes his eyes. Nathan has to turn away for a moment because some answers are too holy to be put into words. The K-9 search fund begins smaller than Nathan imagined and stronger than he dared hope. Retired handlers come from 3 counties to help train volunteer teams in scent awareness, search safety, and family support. Dr. Morris sets up a small veterinary first aid room in what used to be the station manager's office. Local teenagers paint benches, plant flowers, and build a wall of framed photographs donated by families. In the old ticket booth, Nathan installs a glass case. Inside are copies of the first ticket Ranger brought him. The collar piece marked Ranger, property of T. Walker, Emily's butterfly hair clip, and a photograph of Thomas sitting on platform 2 with his hand resting on Ranger's back. The originals remain with investigators or in protected family storage, but the copies are enough. They do not pretend to solve the mystery. They bear witness. That becomes the heart of the place. Not answers as a performance. Witness as an act of love. On the first public opening, Ashford gathers under a clear October sky. The air smells of fallen leaves, fresh paint, coffee, and the faint iron scent of rails warming in the sun. American flags line the walkway, small ones placed by veterans and children together. The clock tower has not been reset. Nathan decided that after many sleepless nights. Instead, the cracked face was preserved behind reinforced glass, still reading 9:42, and beneath it the town placed a second clock that tells the present time. One for what happened, one for what can still happen. The dedication is quiet. No band. No loud speeches. Mayor Carden thanks the volunteers. Deputy Laura Jennings speaks about reopened files and the promise to treat every name with care. Dr. Morris says that search dogs do not chase miracles. They follow what remains, and sometimes that is enough to bring people back to one another. Then Nathan steps forward with Ranger at his side. The old dog wears a clean harness, his fur brushed, his muzzle white in the autumn light. Nathan had planned to read from a paper, but when he sees the faces in front of him, parents, veterans, children, deputies, teachers, strangers holding photographs, he folds the paper and puts it in his pocket. My sister waited here, he says. His voice is steady, though his hand rests on Ranger's back. My father searched here. This dog remembered here. For a long time, I thought this station was the place where my life ended. But Emily left a note asking us not to let it stay sad forever. My father left a note asking it to speak for all of them. So that is what we are doing. We are letting it speak. Not with fear. Not with blame. With names. With work. With dogs who know how to follow what love refuses to lose. The crowd stays silent. The good kind of silent. The kind that holds something carefully. Nathan looks. Down at Ranger. The German Shepherd has lowered himself beside bench 7. Tired but peaceful, his amber eyes half closed. A shaft of sunlight slips through the repaired window and rests across his paws. Nathan kneels next to him and removes something from his jacket pocket. It is a new train ticket, printed that morning on cream paper by a local artist who helped restore the ticket booth. Across the front it reads Ashford Station, one way. Under passenger name, Nathan had written Emily Grace Walker. Under destination, he had written home. He places it inside the glass case beside the copy of the old one, then rests his palm on the case. For a moment, the years seem to fold gently together. Emily with her piano book, Thomas with his map, Ranger with rain in his fur and a ticket in his mouth. Nathan at the memorial, finally brave enough to follow. After the ceremony, people stay. They walk through the hall softly. They read the names. They place flowers. A little boy asks Nathan whether Ranger is a hero. Nathan looks at the old dog sleeping near the bench and answers. He is a friend who did not quit. The boy accepts this as better than hero, and maybe it is. As evening comes, the crowd thins. Volunteers stack chairs. Coffee urns are emptied. The sky turns rose-colored beyond the rail line. Nathan remains alone in the main hall with Ranger, though alone no longer feels like the right word. The station is full now. Not crowded. Full. Of names, light, footsteps, prayers, and the quiet labor of people choosing mercy after years of delay. Nathan sits on bench 7. Ranger rests his head on Nathan's boot, just as he did beside the piano that first night. The new clock above the hall ticks softly. The old clock stays at 9:42. Both are true. Nathan reaches down and strokes the dog's head. We came back. He whispers. All of us. Ranger breathes in, slow and deep, then lets it out with a sigh so peaceful it seems to settle into the floorboards. Outside, a train horn sounds far away on a working line miles beyond town, low and mournful, then fading into the evening. Nathan closes his eyes. He does not hear accusation in it anymore. He hears distance. He hears return. He hears the mercy of a road that can lead away and still, somehow, lead home. When he opens his eyes, the last sunlight is touching the glass case, shining through the ticket marked home, turning the paper gold. Nathan smiles through tears, not because every question has been answered, and not because grief has ended, but because love has found work to do. Some stories do not end with victory. They end with a door unlocked, a name spoken, an old dog sleeping in a patch of light, and a man finally understanding that forgiveness had been waiting for him all along, patient as a station, faithful as paws in the rain.